Hi, what's up guys? Welcome back. It's been a couple of days, but here I am again, here to talk about another song. Today I'm going to talk about the Wallflowers One Headlight. It's a song that I really enjoyed. It's Jacob Dylan's the lead singer, son of Bob Dylan, who I personally think that Jacob Dylan is a better singer than his father, but that's just my own personal opinion. Anyway, let's get into this video. I'm excited for this, and we're going to talk about this song because this is one I've kind of wanted to talk about for a little while.
She died easy of a broken heart disease as I listened through the cemetery trees. I seen the sun coming up at the funeral at dawn of the long broken arm of human law. Now it always seemed such a way, she always had a I wondered why she hung around this place.
Okay, what I really like about this opening verse here is how he paints this picture of because he says so long ago I can't remember when, that's when they said I lost my only friend, and how he talks about the setting of the funeral, because obviously I think the funeral isn't literal but more so metaphorical of basically losing someone very close to you, losing someone that meant a lot, and kind of the mourning of the loss of that friendship, and kind of reminiscing over what you once had and what is now kind of lost. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I take it. I mean, it can be taken quite literally, especially when you speak about things like the cemetery breeze. I see the sun come up at the funeral at dawn. What did he say? Right here, hold on.
Heart disease, as I listen through the cemetery trees.
Even right there when he says, since she died easy of a broken heart disease, as I listen to the cemetery trees, when I take it when he says broken heart disease, basically, it's almost like things fell apart, and he may have done something to hurt her, which drove her away, which in turn broke her heart and sent her away, and now what they had between them is now kind of dead. That's kind of how I take it. And then when he goes, and I take that when he says it always seemed such a way, she always had a pretty face. At least how I see that is kind of I don't know why she stuck around me so long. Because if you use it as a metaphor, as a place, it's not necessarily the literal place, but you can take it that way. But also places in the space within this relationship together. I don't know why she stuck around here. This was not really conducive or good for her, maybe. And it's best that maybe that things died and that she has moved on. And then that leads us into the hook, which, let's go.
One
And what I really like about the chorus is like when he says, "No, I'm gonna recap it a little. Come on, drive a little. Nothing is forever. There got to be something better than in the middle. Me and Cinderella put it all together. We can drive it home with one headlight." What I take from that is that essentially it's like, through the pitfalls and the troubles of things that are happening, even if things aren't entirely perfect, we can still find a way to make it through. And which is using the metaphor of driving. I mean, we like, come on, drive a little. Nothing is forever. Like, come on, let's just keep on moving because eventually it all ends. Cinderella could be like, the person from the first verse, or his friend, or Cinderella as in like the fantasy girl, the girl from fairy tales. We're trying to figure it all out. And even if this car only has one working headlight, we'll still find a way to make our way through like the hardships of life or the things that are coming our way down this road. You know what I mean?
She said it's cold, it feels like Independence Day, and I can't break away from this parade. But there's got to be an opening somewhere here in front of me, through this maze of ugliness and greed. And I seen the sign up ahead at the counterline bridge, saying all is good and nothingness is dead. We'll run until she's out of breath. She ran until there's nothing left. She hit the end, it's just her window ledge.
Now, this verse though, while it's a bit more, I'd say more ambiguous than the first one, and especially in like what it represents. Like, but I'll, because it still kind of sticks with me a little way. I always go back and forth a little bit about what it means, but I guess I'll take it as like I'll start like piece by piece a little bit. Like when he says, it's cold, it feels like Independence Day, but I can't break away from this parade. There's no Independence Day like 4th of July, but I'll have a 4th of July parade, which is to separate freedom. And even though it's like it represents freedom, he can't seem to break away, which means he feels sort of trapped in some place where he's supposed to feel free. And again, he also references, I see the sun coming up at the Counterline Ridge, which again references back to the first one when he saw the sun coming up at the funeral, but this time you see the sun coming up at the Counterline Ridge. And he says that August this, but wait, he said, what did he say? Let's go back, because sometimes it's still...
At the counterline bridge, saying all is good and nothingness is dead. We'll run until she's out of breath. She ran until there's nothing left. She hit the end, it's just her window ledge.
And now that's an interesting line. He goes, we'll run until she's out of breath. We ran until there's nothing left. She hit the end. It's just her window ledge. And like what's interesting is like, it's like, are they like running from their problems, running from their life? But at the end, there's like really nowhere to go, or they weren't really going anywhere to begin with. Or she hit the window ledge, like she basically hit the end of the line, but there wasn't really anywhere to go. That's kind of how I take it. I go back and forth on this verse though about what it means because I'm still not entirely clear. But that's kind of how I take it because like it's a little bit, sometimes it's a little bit unclear. But that's just kind of how I see it. It's a very interesting way. Like it's basically, although I say like this verse, if the first verse represents like the disillusionment and the dissolving of a relationship and the dissolving of illusions, so to speak, and ideals, I guess you could say. This one represents like feeling trapped by convention, being trapped by the things that are supposed to make you free, and then ultimately realizing that you weren't really going anywhere to begin with. It's kind of like how I see it. And then we go back to the chorus.
truck. I turn the engine, but the engine doesn't turn. What smells of cheap Hawaiian cigarettes? This place is always such a mess. Sometimes I think I'd like to watch it burn. It's alone, and I feel just like somebody else. Man, I ain't changed, but I know I ain't the same. But somewhere here in between these city walls of dying dreams, I think your death, it must be killing me.
Now, what's really interesting about this verse, I think anyway, it's like it kind of like each verse kind of represents a different state of being. One of like the the dissolving of illusion and the loss of love. The second verse is sort of feeling trapped kind of in what's supposed to make you feel free, but this one is kind of like feeling stagnant. And the fact that he talks about the state of being, like this the place he's in. It feels like a beat up truck. He says, "I tried to turn the engine, but the engine doesn't turn. Like I'm trying to get it to move, but it's like I don't have the motivation to keep moving." And, you know, and sometimes I just wish it all. I just think I just let it all fall apart, which I think is like what he means when he says, "I like to see it burn." And then especially when he says, "I ain't changed, but I know I ain't the same," which I think we've all been there, where you reach this kind of point where like you don't feel like you're anyone different, but at the same time you don't feel like you used to feel anymore. You don't, you're not like the same person in many ways, but you still are. Like you're not, you don't think you're different, but in some ways you are, and you're kind of in this kind of in between state of being that's kind of hard to break out of. And also like just the different ideas of like the imagery of like cheap Hawaiian cigarettes. Is that what he says? Cheap Hawaiian cigarettes? I'm pretty sure that's what he says. And there's just an idea of like all of these things paint this picture of just feeling stagnant and feeling stale and feeling like every attempt you try to make to move forward has failed, and you're just kind of stuck in this middle ground, and you ultimately ended up where you did not want to be, in this kind of indecisive place is kind of what I take from it. But I don't know, I could be wrong. That's just my interpretation. So that being said, let's just let it play out until the end. All right. All right, that was the Wallflowers, One Headlight. I think that's a really good song. There's a lot of meaning, a lot of different meaning you can take from it, and a lot of different ideas you can gather from what the meaning of the song is. And like, if you have any other ideas or anything different than what I said, let me know in the comments. I would like to hear what you have to say. I love to have these conversations. That's just what I think about it. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. If this is your first video, welcome. Go ahead and hit that button. Do the right thing. Be a good person. And give us a like if you like this video. Yeah, and until next time, I'll talk to you later, alright? Peace.